What would you do if your family was hungry, the river was full of fish, and something with armored skin, a snapping jaw, and a tail like a baseball bat was floating just a few feet away? Would you risk your life for it? Because ancient people living near tropical rivers faced a version of that choice. And here's the twist. Humans did eat caiman meat, but caiman never became humanity's everyday food in the way deer, fish, pigs, or cattle did. Stay till the end. The last part will completely change how you think about ancient humans. By the end of this, you'll understand why caiman was sometimes dinner, but almost never the safest, easiest, or most reliable thing to build a whole food culture around. First, we need to fix the question. It's not really why didn't humans eat caiman meat? The better question is, why didn't caiman meat become one of humanity's main foods? Because people absolutely hunted and ate caiman in parts of Central and South America. But that's the key part right there. Parts of Central and South America. Caimans weren't walking around ancient Africa, Europe, or most of Asia. They were creatures of the Americas, especially warm rivers, swamps, marshes, and wetlands. So for most of the human story, caiman wasn't even an option. It was never going to become a global ancient human food like fish, deer, shellfish, or small game. Now imagine you're standing on the edge of an ancient river. No grocery store, no refrigerator, no metal spear, no flashlight. The sun is dropping. Bugs are everywhere. The water looks black. You can hear things moving in the reeds. And somewhere out there, a caiman is waiting. That's the first reason. A caiman doesn't live on open ground where you can see it coming. It lives in its world, the water. And if you're a human with basic tools, hunting something in water is a completely different game from hunting something on land. A deer might run. A wild pig might charge. But at least you can see the danger. A caiman? It can sit almost completely still. Just eyes above the water. No warning. No big dramatic roar. Just 1 second of silence, then movement. And suddenly, the hunter is the one being hunted. That changes everything. Ancient people weren't just asking, can we kill this animal? They were asking, is this meal worth the risk? Because one bad hunt could mean a broken arm. One broken arm could mean you can't make tools. You can't carry wood. You can't paddle. You can't protect your family. And in the ancient world, that could be the difference between surviving the week and not surviving it. So yes, a caiman had meat. But meat wasn't the only thing that mattered. The real question was, how much danger are you taking on for those calories? And compared to many other animals, caiman could be a terrible gamble. Think about it like this. If you're hungry, would you rather grab food from a vending machine or reach into a dark garage where you know there might be a huge angry dog? That's basically the difference. Fish were often easier. Turtles could be easier. Small animals could be easier. Fruit, nuts, roots, and insects didn't bite back at all. A caiman was food, sure, but it was food with teeth, and not tiny teeth either. Common caimans can grow several feet long, and they're meat eaters. They feed on things like fish, birds, reptiles, turtles, and mammals. They're built to detect movement in the water and react fast when prey gets close. So imagine trying to kill one without a modern gun, a boat motor, a steel hook, or strong rope. That's not a casual food run. That's a mission. And here's where the story gets even more interesting. Ancient humans were not stupid hunters who just chased the biggest, scariest animal around. Actually, the smartest survival groups often did the opposite. They looked for food that gave them the best return. Calories for effort, food for danger, meat for time. That's why small, reliable foods mattered so much. A river can give you fish again and again. A forest can give you fruits, nuts, roots, birds, eggs, and small animals. But a big caiman? You might spend hours finding one, then hours watching it, then risk your life getting close, then risk getting dragged into water, then spend even more time cutting through thick skin and heavy muscle. And after all that, you still need to get the meat safely back home. That's another part people forget. Killing an animal is only half the job. You still have to process it, carry it, cook it, share it, protect it from other animals, and do all of that before it spoils. Caiman skin is not like deer hide. It's tough, armored, built for a rough life in rivers and swamps. That means getting to the meat is more work. And ancient humans were amazing with stone tools, bone tools, fire, and teamwork. But they still had to think like survivors. Why fight through armor if dinner is swimming nearby in the form of fish? Why gamble on jaws if you can trap smaller prey? Why risk one person's life when there are safer ways to feed 10 people? That's why caiman meat was likely more of an opportunity food. Not always the first choice, not always the main choice. But if the moment was right, if the animal was small enough, if the group had the right tools, if food was scarce, then yes, caiman could become dinner. And this is where human culture enters the story, because food is never just food. Even today, people eat some animals and refuse to eat others. Not always because of taste, not always because of danger. Sometimes it's family tradition, sometimes religion, sometimes respect. Sometimes a story people have told for generations. Ancient communities were no different. One group could see an animal as meat. Another could see it as dangerous. Another could see it as powerful. Another could see it as something connected to their ancestors. There are historical accounts from the Orinoco region describing the Yoruro people eating a smaller crocodilian regularly, while avoiding the larger caiman because they believed it was related to a human race. Same river world, similar animals, totally different meaning. That's huge, because it tells us something important. Humans didn't choose food using one simple rule. They didn't just say, if it has meat, eat it. No, they asked bigger questions. Is it safe? Is it worth the energy? Can we catch it again? Can we cook it? Will everyone eat it? What does this animal mean to us? That's why two groups living near the same river could make totally different choices. For one group, caiman might be a rare meal after a dangerous hunt. For another, it might be avoided. For another, it might be hunted only at certain times. And for another, it could be respected more than eaten. Even in Amazonian hunting communities, caiman has been part of the food picture rather than some impossible taboo. Researchers have documented caiman hunting for meat, and accounts of Amazonian communities describe caiman among the animals people consumed. So the idea that humans never ate caiman isn't true, but the reason it never took over the human menu is much more fascinating. Caiman had 3 big problems. First, it was local. You only found it in certain warm parts of the Americas. Second, it was risky. You had to enter the animal's territory, often near dark water, where one mistake could end the hunt fast. And third, it was unnecessary. In many river environments, ancient people had other choices: fish, turtles, birds, small mammals, fruit, nuts, roots, shellfish. Caiman was never the only answer. And when food isn't the only answer, humans usually choose the option that gives them the most food for the least chance of dying. That's not cowardice. That's intelligence. That's survival. And honestly, that might be the biggest lesson here. Ancient humans weren't always trying to prove they were tough. They weren't trying to hunt the scariest animal just for the story. They were trying to make it to tomorrow, to keep children fed, to keep injured people alive, to avoid risks they didn't need to take. So when you picture ancient humans near a river, don't imagine mindless cave people charging at monsters. Imagine careful people watching the water, listening, waiting, choosing. They knew something we still forget today. Just because something can be eaten doesn't mean it's worth the cost. Caiman meat was never missing from human history. It was just never the easy meal. And in the ancient world, the easiest meal often became the meal that shaped civilization.